Was halfway to the podium when a chair scraped behind me, sharp enough to split the moment open. At my own graduation ceremony, my sister rose and pointed at me like she was delivering a verdict. She cheated her way through college, no whisper, no hesitation, just a clean public execution. The entire auditorium stared. My brother didn't exist in this story, only Ariana, my sister burning for an audience. My parents froze. I kept walking, holding together 4 years of work with nothing but breath and spine. Before I tell you what happened after I reached that stage, tell me, where are you listening from? And if you were me, what would you have done? I didn't grow up expecting my sister to become my enemy. If anything, I spent most of my childhood trying to catch whatever light Ariana walked around with. She was the golden one, louder, brighter, effortlessly magnetic. At family dinners in Portland, relatives leaned toward her stories. I sat beside her, nodding, learning how to make myself small so she could shine. But something shifted when I stopped being the quiet kid who trailed behind her and started becoming someone on my own. By junior year of high school, my grades edged past hers. Teachers called on me more. A scholarship letter arrived with my name on it, and the smile Ariana gave me carried the sweetness of fruit left out too long. College made the distance wider. I left for campus with a duffel bag and a stack of psych textbooks. She stayed home after dropping out of her grad program. I didn't think it mattered, different paths, different timing. But the first crack appeared when my scholarship refund came in short. A missing amount, then a vague explanation from the financial aid office. When I asked my parents if they had heard anything from Ariana, they exchanged a look too quick to decode. Then came the emails, a plagiarism complaint I didn't recognize, a canceled appointment with Professor Hale. I never canceled a tutoring accusation from someone I'd never met. Small things at first, easy to shrug off, easy to blame on the chaos of school. But they built on each other, subtle weight after subtle weight pressing down on my reputation until I could feel people watching me in hallways with the hesitation of someone approaching a cracked mirror. Lena, my roommate, noticed it before I said a word. "You're checking your phone like you're waiting for something bad," she whispered one night in our studio. I didn't know how to explain that I wasn't waiting for bad news, I was waiting for a pattern. The truth is, I kept hoping it wasn't Ariana, that my sister, the girl who used to braid my hair before school, couldn't possibly be behind all of it. But hope has a way of blinding you right before the final blow. I just didn't know that blow would land on the one day she knew I couldn't defend myself. The months leading up to graduation felt like living inside a room where someone kept dimming the lights, not enough to plunge me into darkness, just enough to make me question what I was seeing. Every time I thought the worst was behind me, something new slipped under the door. It started with a second adjustment to my scholarship payments. Then, a notice about a missing form I'd already submitted. Then, my campus account locked me out for repeated suspicious activity. I stared at the login screen in my dorm pulse climbing as if the system itself was telling me I didn't fully belong anymore. Professor Hale called me in next. "A complaint came through," he said, carefully folding his hands. "Someone claims you plagiarized parts of your behavioral analysis report." My stomach dropped. That report had taken me weeks, late nights, cold leftovers, endless corrections. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but he raised a hand. "I don't believe it. I'm telling you so you can prepare." "Prepare? For what?" A war I didn't start. Whispers followed me out of his office. Evan, a classmate from freshman year, gave me a strange, assessing look in the hallway. A girl in my lab group avoided eye contact. Even Lena, who trusted me by instinct, said, "You don't think someone's targeting you, right?" "I don't know," I answered. But I did know. I just didn't want to say it out loud. The turning point came the night I found a message in my inbox, an email apparently sent by me to a faculty assistant canceling a meeting I'd been counting on for my capstone review. The tone wasn't mine. The phrasing wasn't mine. The signature wasn't mine. But the damage, that was very much mine. I sat on my bed in the half-light of our studio apartment, scrolling through old memories of Ariana like I was rewinding a film. The backhanded comments, the sharp smiles, the times she dismissed my wins as luck. The way she'd been drifting through life since leaving her grad program, always comparing, always tallying. And somewhere between those memories, the truth formed, quiet, sharp, undeniable. This wasn't randomness. This wasn't bad timing. Someone was choreographing my downfall piece by piece. I drove home that weekend and found my dad in the backyard standing by the old fence he'd been meaning to fix for years. He watered the hydrangeas like the world wasn't closing in on me. Dad, has Ariana ever said something about me about school? He paused, water trickling onto his shoes. She's been tense, he admitted. Said you get everything handed to you. I told her that wasn't fair, but the rest didn't matter. The fracture was already there. When I returned to campus, I made my decision. No more guessing. No more hoping I was wrong. I reached out to a tech investigator named Noah Vance, the one friend of a friend said could find ghosts in a machine. And within days, the ghosts had names, timestamps, locations, and one of them was Ariana's. That was the moment the quiet dread inside me turned into resolve. Noah didn't speak much the first time we met. He just listened, really listened while I laid out every strange payment, every canceled appointment, every whisper that clung to me like smoke. When I finished, he tapped the edge of his laptop and said, "If someone's been in your accounts, they left footprints. People always do." 3 days later, he called me back to his shared workspace downtown. The place buzzed with low conversations and the hum of old vents. But on Noah's screen, everything was razor sharp. "These are your login logs," he said, pointing. "Except here, here, and here, those aren't yours." The access came from another device on a home network in Portland. My chest tightened. I didn't want him to say it. He said it anyway, the same network where your parents live. Something in me curled inward like my ribs were trying to shield my heart. He wasn't accusing them, not directly. But there was only one person in that house who'd ever memorized my passwords, my security questions, my habits. Ariana. Noah scrolled again. "There's more. The payments missing from your scholarship refund. Someone rerouted them. Twice." He opened another window showing a list of transactions tagged under my campus account, and these tutoring accusations. "They were sent using a mirrored email, one character off from yours. That's intentional." My throat went dry. Intentional. The word felt surgical. I left the workspace shaking phone buzzing in my pocket. Lena texted, "You okay? You've been quiet." I couldn't respond. Not yet. I needed airspace, something steady to hold on to. Instead, I drove straight to my parents' house, sat in the driveway, and stared at the porch light flickering under the early summer sky. Dad found me there 20 minutes later. "Jolie." "What's going on?" I didn't tell him everything. "Just enough." "That scholarship money that went missing? The plagiarism complaint. Someone's been in my accounts messing with my life." He swallowed hard. "Are you saying I don't know what I'm saying?" I lied. "Not until I have proof. Because the truth would break him. He still believed Ariana was complicated, not cruel. Wounded, not dangerous. He didn't see what she was doing to me because I'd spent years covering it with a smile. But I wasn't covering anything anymore. Back on campus that night, I pulled every file, every screenshot, every odd detail Noah had confirmed. If Ariana wanted to tear down the life I built, I would protect it with everything I had left. I contacted attorney Mira Reyes the next morning. She reviewed what I brought and asked only one question. "When do you want this to stop?" "When it's no longer just me she can hurt," I said. That was when the shift happened, quiet, but absolute. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was preparing. Graduation was 2 weeks away. I tucked the evidence into a sealed envelope labeled and ready. And for the first time in months, I felt something other than fear. I felt direction. 2 weeks passed like I was living in 2 timelines at once. In one, I was a normal graduating student returning my dorm key, finishing finals, trying on my cap and gown in front of the mirror. In the other, I was preparing for a quiet war. A war Ariana didn't know she'd already lost. The night before graduation, I barely slept. The sky outside my studio was a deep, cloudless blue, the kind that made the world feel paused. I laid out everything, the sealed envelope of evidence, the printed logs Noah had verified, the statement Mira helped me prepare, and my capstone summary. My hands didn't shake, not anymore. They had the steadiness of someone finally stepping out of survival mode. At sunrise, I slipped the envelope into the inner lining of my gown and walked out the door. The university auditorium in Portland was already buzzing by the time I arrived. Students hugged each other, parents fanned themselves with programs, faculty lined up in regalia. Everything looked normal, festive, hopeful, and underneath it all, a slow pulse of dread tapped in my chest. Not fear of Ariana, fear of what she would force me to reveal. When my family arrived, I saw it instantly. Ariana wasn't dressed like someone attending a graduation. She was dressed like someone hosting the event, white blazer, dramatic makeup posture, too rehearsed. She scanned the room, eyes darting hungry for attention she hadn't yet earned. Mom waved at me first, too brightly. Dad hugged me tight, lingering in a way that told me he sensed something was coming. Ariana stood behind them, arms folded. "Congrats," she said smoothly. "Big day." "Yeah," I replied, keeping my voice even. "Huge." Her smile flickered sharp, quick, predatory. And for a brief second I saw the plan in her eyes. She didn't come to celebrate, she came to strike. I took my seat on the stage with the honors students. From up there, the crowd looked like a single breathing organism. The lights warmed my face, and a strange calm settled in my bones. Dean Matthews met my eye from his seat. We'd spoken the night before. He knew everything. He gave the slightest nod. The ceremony began, speeches, applause music swelling and dipping. My name was alphabetically toward the end, which meant Ariana had a wide-open stage of time to decide how she'd ruin the day. And she took it. I heard the scrape first, her chair snapping backward, then her voice. She cheated her way through college. The sound ripped through the auditorium like fabric tearing. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Faculty froze. Phones lifted instantly, bright rectangles capturing the spectacle she wanted so desperately. "She doesn't deserve that diploma," Ariana shouted again, louder this time, pointing directly at me. She lied. She manipulated the system. Ask anyone. Dozens of faces rotated toward me, their expressions shifting from joy to shock to something more complicated: concern, confusion, curiosity. A sea of eyes all asking the same question. Is it true? I stood. Every step down the aisle felt deliberate, measured the click of my heels, a kind of countdown. I didn't look at Ariana. Not because I feared what she'd say next, but because I already knew everything she was about to lose. Students shifted to let me through. Some whispered, some stared openly. A few looked away entirely as if my humiliation might be contagious, but humiliation wasn't what lived in me anymore. It was purpose. The dean waited at the podium with a steady expression, his hands resting lightly on the stack of diplomas. When I reached him, the room was still pulsing with Ariana's accusations, but his voice when he spoke was calm. "Jolie Hart," he said. I accepted my diploma, lifted my chin, and leaned in just an inch. "It's under my seat," I whispered. Envelope marked A19. He didn't flinch. He didn't ask for clarification. He simply smiled, small-knowing, and nodded. That nod was the quiet beginning of the end. Behind us, security moved discreetly. A faculty member approached the row where Ariana still stood, chest-heaving makeup, cracking under the heat of her performance. She didn't realize the room was no longer hers. Not after the dean's nod. Not after the evidence waiting beneath my chair. As I walked off the stage, the energy shifted. The whispers changed. A woman in the second row lowered her phone, frowning not at me, but at Ariana. A professor shook his head. A reporter for the local paper leaned forward, scribbling. Ariana sensed the change, too. "What?" she barked, voice wobbling. "You all saw it." She didn't deny anything. She just stood there. She didn't understand that sometimes silence is not an admission. Sometimes silence is strategy. Security reached her row. One of them spoke softly, offering her a choice sit or step out. But Ariana didn't do soft. "You're all blind!" she screamed, pointing again, desperation breaking through her polished exterior. "She's been lying for years." But the crowd wasn't with her anymore. They'd seen me walk calm and steady. They'd seen the dean nod. They'd seen Ariana unravel. And unravel she did. Her voice cracked first, then her hands, then the control she'd always believed she had over me, over our family, over the narrative. She tried to keep shouting, but security gently guided her toward the aisle. It wasn't forceful, it wasn't harsh, it was simply the natural conclusion of her own choices. When she reached the doors at the back of the auditorium, she turned one last time, eyes hot with disbelief. "You think this is over, Jolie?" she spat. "You think that little whisper makes you innocent. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Because the truth was already moving quietly, legally, irrevocably." After the ceremony, I met the dean backstage. He held the envelope I'd hidden. "This is serious," he said gently. "So was what she did," I replied. He nodded, face steady. "You did the right thing." Mira arrived minutes later, her presence crisp and controlled. She reviewed the contents, quickly log statements, summaries, screenshots, transaction evidence, every piece pointing in one direction. "She won't be able to spin this," Mira said. "Not in front of the academic board, not in civil court, not anywhere." And just like that, the final stage of Ariana's plan collapsed. Not because I shouted, not because I fought her on the floor of the auditorium, but because I refused to fight on her terms. The investigation launched the following morning. By the end of the week, Ariana was banned from campus pending review. 2 professors came forward with suspicious emails they'd dismissed earlier. The scholarship office traced rerouted payments directly to accounts tied to her device. And when Noah submitted his digital report, the board didn't need more than a single meeting. Ariana's sabotage was undeniable. Her outburst at graduation, the very spectacle she thought would destroy me, became the clearest evidence of motive obsession and malicious intent. And in the quiet after the storm, something unexpected happened. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. In the weeks that followed, the investigation moved faster than I expected. The academic board issued its findings. Ariana had accessed my accounts, redirected scholarship payments, fabricated emails, and attempted to interfere with my academic standing. She was officially banned from campus and referred for civil action. When Mira filed the restitution claim, the evidence was so clean the negotiations barely lasted an hour. My parents didn't take it well, shock denial, then quiet acceptance when the paperwork left no room for imagination. Dad called one evening, voice heavy. "I should have seen it," he whispered. I didn't blame him. Ariana had always known how to hide in the spaces where love blurred into assumption. I moved to a small apartment in Corvallis soon after. Nothing fancy, but sunlight poured through the windows every morning. I bought a second-hand table, adopted a cat who immediately took ownership of every chair and let my life become simple again. For the first time in years, my days weren't shaped by fear or second-guessing. I studied, I walked, I breathed. And little by little, the space Ariana once filled with chaos became something gentler room to rebuild myself on my own terms. If there's one thing I learned, it's that telling the truth isn't about winning, it's about finally stepping out of the shadows someone else built for you. Ariana's choices shaped my pain, but they don't shape my future. I built that myself piece by piece with proof, patience, and a refusal to shrink any longer. If you've ever had to stand up to someone who should have protected you, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments. I read them. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. So,